All right, thanks for sharing your garden with us. And up next, we're going to be talking about growing tropicals right here in Texas. A lot of people are beginning to do it, from citruses and beyond, but we're going to be talking about some unusual things that you would never have guessed can grow here in the Lone Star State. I'm joined by Amanda Moon from It's About Time Nursery. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
You know, Amanda, I've been looking around town for the past couple of years, and I've been seeing people be successful with plants we would never have dreamt of growing in the ground in Austin. A lot of the citruses, for example, in recent years. The times they are changing, aren't they?
They are. We had a little bit of a hit 3 and 4 years ago that took out a couple of them. But, you know, we've had some rezoning here in Central Texas where we've got some zone 9s cropping up now.
Right.
In a little bit warmer areas, and so we're starting to push towards that 10 and 11 that we can get away with even growing the stuff outside.
And for those who don't know, 9, 10, and 11, we're talking about the USDA
cold hardiness zones,
cold hardiness zones, and we are moving steadily more tropical.
We are.
And you have brought along a whole bunch of plants that are purely tropical, but that you've been gardening with. I
have been. All of the plants that I brought today are edible in some form or another, which means that you're also, I believe, using your water wisely by putting it towards something that can be of benefit to you.
And we should say that most of the plants that we're talking about today are plants that you grow in containers, right? I do.
But there are places around town where many of these are actually in the ground.
Okay. Well, let's start off by talking about one that in the capital of Tex-Mex, Austin, Texas, would make a lot of people's ears perk up, and that's the avocado.
Yeah, I was actually referred to as the guacamole kid growing up. So I love avocados. I've been eating them my entire life, and they've actually been grown in Texas for hundreds of years. They're commercially produced down in the Rio Grande Valley, and they are starting to develop varieties that actually are hardy down to 15, that in some cases we could get away with in a protected location, actually putting in the ground. As long as we keep them pruned enough, they want to grow 50 feet.
Whoa.
So so the idea is to keep them down enough to where you still have your protection from your fences in your house.
Well, boy, a green avocado falling from 50 feet, beware.
Exactly. Exactly.
So this is something that you can grow in containers, but don't expect to grow a fruiting avocado from the pit in a grocery store.
Exactly. This is every kindergartner's dream project.
Okay.
Most of us have done it. You take your little avocado pit, you put your toothpicks in, set it in water, you get your roots on the bottom, your green growth on the top. And this is great as a project for kids, but you're never really going to get a reliable plant that's going to do much here. Really what we're aiming for is what we call the Mexican avocado varieties. And those are Joey, Opal, Lila, Poncho, Pryor, Wilma, fantastic. Okay. And so you want to aim for something like that. You need 2. Because you want to get cross-pollination. And the reason is because the flowers, the male flowers on the same plant open later in the day than the female flowers, and so you need 2 with opposite cycles so that you can pollinate. The one I brought today, because our weather has been so warm, got confused, started blooming about 6 weeks early. It's been blooming since early December. It's a little yellow, just simply from the cold. I've had it outside most of the year. The great thing about keeping them in containers is if we do get a hard snap, you can drag them in.
Right, right. And the same is true for our next plant. Avocado, obviously, everybody knows about avocados, but the idea of growing cinnamon in Central Texas is really unique and interesting. And I understand that we're actually looking at the end product here in a sense.
In a sense, cinnamon, I would say, significantly harder to find as far as to buy and to grow. But this particular plant, you grow it for a couple of years in a container, you lop it off all the way to the ground, and what it does is it forces it to sucker. And then those suckers, every other year you harvest, you beat them up a little bit, split the outer bark off of it, and it's that inner bark that creates the cinnamon. But in the meantime, as the avocado, which I forgot to mention, you can actually use the leaves on the cinnamon in flavorings and teas. Interesting. Wow. And you know, it's a handsome plant, actually, I think. I think it is. Yeah. And it smells beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful fragrance. The crew was oohing and ahhing over it, and nice glossy foliage.
The next plant you brought along is something called dragon fruit, and the plant looks like dragon fruit.
It does. It certainly has got a look that only a mother could love.
Right.
But actually, what I think is amazing about the story of dragon fruit is that it is a quintessential fruit that is used in Asian and Thai cooking and has been for hundreds of years. The kicker, though, is it's actually a Central American and Mexican plant that was brought to them. And so we're not far from its native location. It is a cactus. It is a vining cactus.
Right. Looks like a lot of the cirrus plants that we're familiar with, right?
Exactly, exactly. Produces beautiful white flowers at night that smell wonderful. You're looking at fruit 30 to 60 days after flowering.
Okay.
This particular variety is called Voodoo Child. It's actually self-pollinating, so you don't have to worry about bats or moths in your greenhouse in order to get fruit.
Okay, very good. Dragon fruit, again, is the name, and really interesting looking plant as well. Right in front of it is allspice, and again, delightfully fragrant.
It is, and actually the name allspice comes from the Europeans. When they got a hold of it, they said, you know what, this actually smells like a combination of nutmeg, cloves, and cinnamon, so hence allspice.
Right.
But it's a native America's plant. A little bit cold hardy, 25 to 30 degrees. You're probably okay with both of them. You can use the leaves in tea. You can use the leaves in anything you want to impart that allspice flavor. It's excellent used as barbecue wood. So if you're smoking a pork roast, or it's fantastic. We don't see a lot of the flowers and the actual berries here because we're a little bit, at least we have been, a little bit too cold for it to bloom.
Well, allspice again, and related, I think, probably to a lot of American species. There are a lot of those real aromatic plants, and probably some things like red bay, which grow here in Austin as well. Now we have the, everybody hears about hibiscus tea, and here is the source.
This is one of them. It sure is. And this particular hibiscus is going to produce sort of 1.5 to 2 inch reddish purple flowers, and they open. They're beautiful. As they close, you harvest them, you dry them, and that's what you can use to make hibiscus tea with.
And it's a very attractive plant.
It can be. If it's left to its own devices, it can get a little bit leggy. So you keep it pruned, keep it chopped, and keep it in a large container because it does have a tendency, like most hibiscus, to get root bound fairly quickly.
Okay, all right. But the hibiscus teas are available as well. And I would imagine that this one is one that can do sun or shade.
It can, a little bit of afternoon shade in the summertime though, because you've got the little bit darker leaves. You're going to be a little bit better with.
Okay, very good. All right. The gingers, there are a lot of different forms of ginger people are growing. You've brought 2 varieties.
There are.
Cardamom ginger and
galangal ginger.
Galangal, which is a staple in the Thai cooking.
It is, it is. Your cardamom ginger is the source of cardamom seed. Here again, similar to the allspice, we don't get a lot of blooms on it, but here again, you can use the leaves as the cardamom fragrance, the cardamom scent. The galangal ginger, a little bit stronger than your regular ginger, can be grown in the ground in a protected location. The cardamom needs to be in a container. Galangal is a little bit sturdier, and you just let it go dry when it goes dormant in the wintertime. You don't want to you don't want to wet rhizomes.
Right.
They're real easy to rot. The same goes for regular ginger. You want to get them started from the root. You want to make sure that you buy them from a nursery or from an organic source, that they don't have a growth inhibitor put on them.
Okay, all right. But there are a couple of the gingers, and again, very popular in local cuisine. The next plant is curry tree, and I never knew there was such a thing as curry tree.
There is a difference. Curry powder, of course, is a combination of different herbs and spices. Curry plant is related to sunflowers. It's a helichrysum, can be used like rosemary. This particular one is curry leaf or curry tree. This is the true source of curry, the spice that's used in Indian cooking. And you use the leaves fresh. Make a poultice, you can fry them, you can do different ways to use them depending on your traditional methods. It's fairly cold tolerant here. I've seen one survive in Pflugerville in a protected location. Can be a little bit invasive. It will spread by suckering and by the seed.
All right, so beware.
Beware, yeah. A little bit of afternoon shade.
Okay. All right. When I hear invasive, my ears always perk up. But, Amanda, we're going to have to wrap it up on that note. But thank you for this introduction to all these really cool plants.
You're
and
very
I know
welcome.
that a lot of the people here in Austin who have culinary inclinations will probably be very interested in this. So thanks again for being our guest.
Thank you.
All right, and coming up next, it's our friend Daphne.